Hi, today I'm going to share my top 5 rides at Disneyland Paris. This list is based on my recent trip in December 2024, and there's a couple on there that surprised me because before I went I thought I knew my top 5, but after taking the trip a couple of them have changed. So this is just based on the rides that I did in that trip, and you're probably not going to agree with it. Let me know in the comments what your list would be, but this is my personal list. So in 5th place we have Remy's Ratatouille Adventure at the Walt Disney Studios Park. This is actually the first time I'd ridden this ride, despite it having been there for over 10 years, and basically I never realised it was there. It was introduced in June 2014, and I was actually there in June 2014, but I think the ride opened like a couple of days after I left, so I didn't hear about it. And then I'd been to Disneyland Paris 2 more times since then, and I just never went into that corner of the park because I didn't know anything was there. So yeah, this was my first time riding it, and I was impressed. So the exterior of the ride is designed to look like Gusto's restaurant, and then on the ride you're shrunk down to the size of a rat and drive around in a rat-shaped vehicle and sort of experience life as a rat, sort of running around the kitchens and into the restaurant and trying to escape being seen. So it's a trackless ride system, which is pretty cool because you don't know where your vehicle's going to go to next. And especially for the first time riding it, it had the real element of surprise because, yeah, you didn't know where your car was going to head next. And the ride itself is quite clever because it uses a mix of cinema screens showing like footage of the kitchens and stuff, but then at the same time your vehicle's also moving around like actual 3D props, so it's a good sense of reality blending with non-reality, and yeah, it's really cool. And then when you exit the ride, there is actually a restaurant there that you can eat in, but didn't do that this trip. And a couple of the moments I particularly remember are going like into an oven or some kind of grill where the heat comes on above you, and then another bit where there was a champagne cork that popped and a little spray of water, which I wasn't expecting. So yeah, they're the bits that stand out for me. So coming in at 4th place is the biggest surprise on the list, and that's because it's a ride I'd forgotten even existed, and it is the Voyage of Pinocchio. So yeah, I definitely wasn't expecting this to be in my top 5. But I just had a really good experience on it this time. We rode it on day 2 of our trip, and we'd had a really good day, and I think we were just riding high on good vibes and the excitement of the day, having ticked off most of the like big rides or crossed everything off our list that we wanted, and then this was just like a little bonus one. I think it helped because we had the front row, where a lot of the rides we were put at the back, so you've got the view of people's heads in front of you. So to have that open view as you go round just added to the experience, as you were really immersed in the world of Pinocchio. And Pinocchio is one of my favourites, mostly because it was one of the only Disney movies I had as a child. So growing up in the 80s, I didn't have access to a lot of the Disney animated movies, as we didn't have things like Disney Plus, or we didn't even have the Disney Channel. But Pinocchio was on the TV once, and I taped it, and I just used to watch the video a lot. So it's one of the films that I know very well. So it was just nice to go on the ride and revisit all my favourite scenes from the film. And I particularly liked the clocks at the end, because that's one of the parts of the film that I do really like. all the little like cuckoo clocks, and I always liked the one of the mum smacking the naughty boy, and as she smacks it, it's like wah, 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 instead of like a cuckoo noise. And then when you get off the ride, it leads you into a little gift shop where I picked up Jiminy Cricket and also my Cheshire cat that I'd been looking for. So yeah, all in all, it was like a good experience, and that's why it made it to my top 5. So coming in at number 3 is Pirates of the Caribbean. I really struggled with where to place this on the list because I felt like it had a big impact on our trip. And yeah, I didn't know where to rank it, but I put it at number 3. So this has always been one of my favourites. I think because my dad always used to sing the song when we went on the ride in Florida. He used to sing it as we went round, so it holds nice memories for that. And I believe the Paris version is a lot darker than the American ones, although I can't clearly remember what the American ones are like, so it's hard for me to compare at the moment. So this is a water ride that takes place in the dark, and you go round in a large boat and through different like pirate caves and through a pirate town. So there's lots of animatronics and different things to keep your interest, and there's also a couple of drops that add a bit of excitement, although I don't think you really get wet on this ride. And we also ate at Captain Jack's restaurant, which overlooks the ride, so we spent a good hour or so sort of in that environment, and having that extra time just really allows you to soak in the atmosphere. So because we had that extra time in there, and we did actually go back and ride this for a second time on day 3, it felt like this ride played a big part in our trip. I discovered afterwards that I had actually lost one of my camera lenses, and I think it happened on the Pirates ride. So I like to think of it having the time of its life, going round and round on the boat. Coming in at number 2 is Hyperspace Mountain. This is one of the rides I really wanted to do because the last 3 times I've been to Disneyland Paris, it's been closed. And the last time I was at Magic Kingdom, it broke down just as I was about to get on it. So I haven't done Space Mountain for over 20 years. So I was very pleased to finally get on this ride. It was quite a bit different from the Magic Kingdom one that I remember. One of the main differences I noticed is that you sit side by side, whereas in Florida you sit like in a row, one behind another. It wasn't all smooth sailing on this ride though, and that was mainly due to me being unfit probably, but I found it quite difficult to get into the ride vehicle just because the sides are quite high and then the seat is quite low, so it's quite a climb up and down into the seat. And because I had like my shopping bag and a backpack, there was no room to put it, so I was trying to put it by my feet, but there wasn't actually enough room for my big feet, as the leg room was very tight. So I did have one foot kind of twisted round at a right angle, which spoilt the ride a bit for me because I was nervous going round like, am I going to be able to get out of this? But I did, and it was fine. But yeah, it was a bit nerve-wracking and made me feel like old and out of condition, which I guess I am. So the actual ride itself is themed to Star Wars now, after it was updated in 2017. And although I'm not a massive Star Wars fan, I did enjoy the theming of it. So it starts by launching you up into space, and there's lots of lights and just pretty cool. I was criticised by my brother for not filming any of the roller coasters, but I had enough of a job getting myself on let alone try to do it whilst holding a camera. So apologies, there's no footage of the actual ride, but it's pretty good, so go ride it for yourselves. So we're getting close to first place, and if you're still watching, make sure you hit that like button to give me a big thumbs up. So at number 1, it's the ride I was expecting to be number 1, and you probably can guess what it is, as I think I talk about it quite a lot, but it's Peter Pan's Flight. So this ride was top of my list to do, and we ended up getting a Premier Access pass for it the first time, because the queue is always at least an hour. I believe it's the most popular ride in Fantasyland, and probably one of the most popular rides in the park. So that queue pretty much never goes down. So on this ride, you board a little boat and journey around scenes from Peter Pan. And I think one of the things that sets this ride apart from the other rides in Fantasyland is the fact that your boat flies. So it gives you a different perspective of things as you're like flying over the top of the scenes and like looking down from your boat. So my favourite part is near the beginning of the ride, when you go out of the nursery window and then fly over the rooftops of London and then into Neverland, and there's like a rainbow, and that's the part that really sticks out in my mind. And the ride on this trip was particularly memorable because we were seated in the back row, and then on the row in front of us was a like mum and dad with a child, and then the dad got his phone out and started doing a video call. So at first, this was as we got onto the ride and we started moving, so my first thought was, he's gonna spoil my ride, because I've got like this phone screen in my view and like someone's face there, and I was kind of thinking, why have you queued for an hour? Because they had come from the queue part of the queue, whereas we had walked on with the Premier Access. So I thought, you've queued for an hour and now you're not even going to pay attention and you're going to do a phone call. So yeah, initially I was getting a bit annoyed, and then I felt a bit guilty because I kind of looked at the phone and saw the person that he was talking to, and it looked like an old man that was maybe not well and on his deathbed, and I think the family had like phoned him to share the ride experience with him, and I could kind of see him smiling as though it had been one of his favourite rides and this was his last time riding it, and yeah, he couldn't be there with his family, but they wanted to share the experience with him, so he got to ride it one last time. And then I thought, oh, that's quite nice actually. So yeah, I just felt a bit choked up, like seeing this old man with a look of happiness on his face, and then I felt a bit guilty for being grumpy at the start and annoyed, but yeah, but when I got off the ride I did kind of feel like it had been a special part of the experience, that I was part of his last ride. I don't know for sure he was dying, but that's the story I've made up in my head. And that's why Peter Pan's Flight has remained top of my list. So, what do you think of my top 5? Does it differ from yours? Like I said, I'm surprised Pinocchio is there, as that's not considered like one of the best rides. But yeah, sometimes you surprise yourself with the things you enjoy. Let me know in the comments which rides are in your top 5. Thanks for watching, and look out for my worst 5 things of Disneyland Paris coming soon.